Sir? Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The sacrament roll call, please.
Mr. Conley. Here. Mrs. Marks.
Here.
Dr. Krebs. Here. Ms. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Myers.
Here. All right, that moves us to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Krebs,
Support.
support by Ms. Reed. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 5-0. Moves us to the superintendent report. Dr. Outlaw.
Really very quickly, before I turn it over to the students, I have just three quick things. One, I want to just say, you're probably going to talk about Pink Week, but Pink Week was a big success. Our students did a wonderful job on that, raised nearly $80,000, as I understand. Great job, good cause, and I just want to congratulate all of our students on that. I'm sure we'll talk about homecoming as well, but I just also want to say congratulations to all of our students. Homecoming week was a great week, obviously, for the students, but for the community at large. We were able to have so many alumni in. We had a great distinguished alumni event on Thursday. It was great. It was a great way for the community to come together. I just want to say thank you for everybody for your efforts last week. Third thing I just want to mention is special education millage. I put out some factual information for folks about that millage. Oops, I have one of the green ones now, so I need to turn that on. The special education millage is, on election day. If you have any questions at all about the millage, don't hesitate to reach out. We have information on our website. For us, it represents a little bit over $3 million of our annual budget, and it is a renewal. I talked about it at our last board meeting, but if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask. With that, I want to turn it over. This will be our first student report, and I'd like to bring our students forward. Introduce yourselves to the board, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. We're going to tell you a little bit about what's been going on at BHS.
So first, we would like to introduce ourselves. My name is Charlotte Manzik. I'm a senior at the high school. I'm one of the two-year members on the leadership class. I'm also the vice president of exec board. I play tennis at the high school. I'm president of NHS. I'm a part of Interact and UNICEF, BCOM, and HOSA. And also in the middle there, you can say that's Nate Stark. He's not here today, but he's the third two-year member of leadership.
My name's Ashlyn Burns. I'm the second year member of leadership. I'm also I'm the president of this year's exec board. I also play tennis. I'm also in NHS, and then I'm a president of Euchre Club. I'm a member of our garden club. I'm a member of DECA and BCOM. So just to start with some of the things that happened over the summer and the beginning of the school year, the junior class council put on a pickleball tournament as a way to raise funds for prom. It was a lot of fun. They encouraged people to dress up in some costumes, so you might be able to see that there. And then senior class council started the year off with a senior sunrise for all of the seniors, which was a lot of fun too.
Also, as Dr. Outlaw said, we just had our annual Pink Week fundraiser put on by leadership.
Yeah, so a few of the events we ran, we had a bake sale that we ran at all the lunches. We got a lot of donations, and we had a teacher, Miss Diggs. She made a lot of stuff for us too, so that was awesome. We also had the raffle, which we got a lot of donations from businesses around the community and just families wanting to donate, so that was a lot of fun too. We ran Pie in the Face, which was kids could pay $5 and pie themselves or a friend in the face at lunch. We did Car Bash, so kids could pay to destroy a car. We did Dash for Cash at all of the sporting events, which was a good way to get a lot of the community involved. And we did Coins for a Cure at all the elementary schools, where we would drop off buckets and bags at each of the classrooms, and kids could take them home, ask their parents for some change, and then bring it in, and whatever class raised the most money at each elementary school got a prize.
We also ran a pink run, which was open to the community, along with doing Cuts for a Cure, which is where we elected certain students from the high school to raise money at lunches, and whichever students raised the most money buzzed their hair at the homecoming football game, at the Pink Week football game. We also did the Powder Puff game, which is where the girls played football and the boys were cheerleaders, and that was super fun. We raised a lot of money through that event. And we put on the Survivor Walk, where survivors throughout the community were able to come, and we were able to support them through their journeys, as well as doing driveway painting for people in the community.
So we don't have an exact number yet of funds raised, but we do believe we've met or we've probably surpassed our goal of $75,000, which is really big for us. That's a new record. So, yeah.
This past week was obviously homecoming week. So at the high school, we had some fun spirit days, and we have a video to show you of some of the days.
You can't hear the audio, but just know that it's there.
So that was a super fun week. Unfortunately, the staff did win in dressing up for spirit days, but seniors came in a close second.
No, don't. Yeah, but then it doesn't. There we go. Maybe. Okay. So then to end homecoming week, we had our big homecoming assembly that was put on by our leadership class. We had a lot of really amazing performances from some groups like cheer, pom, the drumline, and color guard. There's some members of our leadership class. The seniors did end up winning the Spirit Cup, so that was great. And then we also had some fun games like musical chairs, mattress surfing, and each year we do a class singing competition, and the seniors also won.
Also, throughout the homecoming week, our class councils were working very hard on their float designs, which many of you probably saw. Our homecoming theme this year was Enchanted Gardens. So the juniors took first place with their Tangled theme float.
So then on Saturday, exec board put on the homecoming dance. The theme was Enchanted Gardens. So we had lots of fun decorations like flowers, vines, fairy lights, all that kind of stuff. And then this year, exec board experimented with a new photo booth, and we experimented with it right there. So I think a lot of kids really liked it, and it was really cool because kids could take their picture and then they could, like, through the photo booth, could send it to their phones. So we thought that was a fun way for kids to get involved.
NHS has been also working very hard this year. We have 10 running committees. We have Food Drive, Senior Survivor, BHS Brilliance, Tutoring, Veterans, Seniors for Seniors, Brightening Up Brighton, Induction, VidPro, and Mental Health. And the Veterans Committee just recently honored local veterans at the USA football game. Along with this, the Food Drive is beginning this week, and it's going to run through November 8th. And along with this, the tutoring committee is opening up opportunities for students at Brighton High School to get help with their academics. And there's much more to come.
So then lastly, we would just like to recognize some of our other clubs that have been going on at BHS. The Garden Club did a really cute fundraiser at lunch on Wednesday and Thursday of last week. We had stems for sale. So it was $5 for 5 stems or $10 for 10 stems. That kids could each pick out whatever flowers they wanted, and then we would assemble them, and they could have a cute little bouquet that they could either keep for themselves or give to their date. And then Interact Club has been donating a lot to first responders by having kids bring in baked goods and writing some cute little letters.
So that's all we had prepared for you two guys today. So thank you so much for letting us talk.
How do I get out of this?
Yes, thank you, Charlotte and Ashlyn, for being here this evening. We appreciate you updating us and the public of what all the important things and exciting things that are going on at the high school. I want to commend you and everyone on the leadership class, the exec board, the student councils. You know, all of you have shown tremendous leadership on behalf of the school to really make all of these amazing things a success. For the benefit of the community, and it's a real testament to your leadership. And on behalf of the board, we appreciate all that you guys do for that. And we look forward to future meeting. You're welcome to come to all of our meetings. We encourage you to be here and keep us up to date as to what's going on. So thank you again for taking time this evening to be here, and we very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So next up, the state budget, we had our budget hearing in June last year. Things were still moving in Lansing at that time, and things have landed at this point. And Mr. Jones is going to talk to you about some of the changes that have taken place to the budget from June until today. So I know there's been changes at the state level, even into September. So these are hot off the press. Mr. Jones.
So yeah, we had a few curveballs thrown at us when the state budget came out. So what I want to do is give you an update of how our budget that we prepared, how that looks now compared to what the state came out with their budget. So the main things that were impacted was number one is, and of course, our key piece of the budget, our per pupil foundation allowance amount. They made changes to our section 31 AA security mental health grant, which is a very large grant. We got over $2 million last year. And that's the one that Dr. Outlaw was talking about. I had to update my presentation just 2 weeks ago because they continue to change, or they can change that to the good, thank you. The MIPSR's offset revenue, this is something that is new. So they made, this was one of the big curveballs that we got. And like I said, this is ongoing. There are still things that are being worked on, and there still could be some changes going forward. So to describe to you the negative impacts that happen, and actually, this is actually a mixed, now that they changed the 31A, this is now a mixed slide of good and bad. So the foundation allowance, we had assumed a 2.5% increase annually. Historically, it's been about a 3% increase. So we were, uh-oh. Lost my, there's something you need to do here, sir? Yeah. All right, we're back. Thank you, Nick. So again, going back to the foundation allowance, we had assumed a 2.5% increase for next year, which is pretty typical. And we ended up with no increase for next year. So this had a negative impact based upon our number of FTEs that we have. This represents about $2.4 million of revenue that's in our budget that we will not get. And that is based on, if you're back in June, when we put together our budget, we had a number of FTEs of just over 10,000. So the next thing is so originally the 31 AA security mental health grant was a negative impact. We had budgeted about $2.1 million, which was a slight, about a 10% decrease from last year. And the state originally had slashed this amount by 90%. And it was barely $200,000. And well, thank God they came back and they just did a 50% decrease instead of a 90% decrease. So this actually worked out in our favor. And then one small amount compared to the other numbers is there's a MIPSR section 147F. Last year we got $276,000, so I rebudgeted that, and the state did not renew it. So now the positive impacts. So to offset the no increase to the foundation amount, the state instead decided to give everybody a one-time MIPSR's payment, which is out of the retirement fund, of 5.7% of last year's salaries. So this will represent, based upon our salaries from last year, about $3.1 million an additional payment. Now, in our BEA contract, there is a clause in there that is an enrollment trigger. And the enrollment trigger, in order for the trigger to happen, it's based upon foundation revenue. And so in our budget, based upon the fact that we were budgeting an increase in our foundation revenue, we had computed what that would mean based upon our contract with BEA on what their enrollment trigger would be. And because the state did not give us any increase in foundation, that of course had a major impact on the trigger. So the trigger that we computed was about 2.4%. And based upon the fact that there will be no increase to the foundation revenue, it's only about a 0.2%. So that will save the district about $900,000. And then were some small grants. Our bilingual grants are 31A at risk. Overall, that we got about $82,000 of an increase based upon what we had budgeted. So what does all this mean? When we throw it all together, bottom line is this. We have a positive impact based upon what the budget that we put together, about $400,000. And to give you perspective, our overall operating revenues are just over $128 million in our budget. So this represents nothing more than 0.33% of our overall budget. So bottom line is we pretty much dodged the bullet on this one. Some districts got hurt pretty bad with all these changes. We did not. So we're still in a pretty good place. Just everything's in a little bit of different buckets. That's all. Questions?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. And then the final part of the superintendent report is at a previous meeting, we had talked about when we have one of our folks that's going to present at the end of the agenda. If it's a simple presentation, we're able to move them up. So I'm going to have Mr. Castillo is going to talk a little bit about the stadium cameras, which is for action. And then for future action, he's going to explain the technology purchases.
So we'd like to purchase 360 Chromebook devices and 10 carts. They'd be purchased through REMC, and then they'd be purchased with grant funding. They'd be used to replace any devices that are out of warranty at this point. And then they'd also be additional devices to go into the buildings for online learning. It's a $103,496.40 purchase. That's for future action.
There are questions on this? This was part of that 5-year recycling plan that
Recycling plan,
they
yes.
talked about in September.
We were just able to purchase these out of the grant funding, so we decided to move ahead and get these devices out into the district. And then 14 additional cameras added for security, mostly pertaining to the blind spots at the football stadium to kind of help with security out there during football games and, during regular class time. Additional ones on the back of the buildings on either side, some pointing at the stands, and then ones pointing into the coves on the sides of the buildings that aren't covered currently. We took 3 bids. Like I said, it's 14 cameras additional. The one that I've decided on was for Intercomp, and it's $33,382.49.
How does this impact?
We've actually got a lot of space with the new additional the bond stuff that we purchased. We have a lot of space on ours. Usually, ideally, you'd probably like to replace cameras every 5 to 7 years. I would say somewhere around there.
I had a question about the bids received. There was a pretty broad swing between the prices that came back. What was the biggest difference?
So the two higher priced ones work with the current system that we have. They're a commercial grade camera that works with that system. So they will actually be able to just be input into our system. We can use them just like any other camera that goes on online. The cheaper priced one was a completely separate system that was cloud-based. I'm not sure that the quality of the cameras were as good as what these types of cameras would be. And they were more of they also had like a mobile type solution that would go along with it. I didn't like the idea of running 2 separate systems. where you would be able to include these other cameras into our existing system.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So this will be in the for action portion of our agenda. So Mr. Castillo wanted to make the presentation at this point. Just to clarify for purposes of the packet.
Yeah.
So the quotes that are in here, the Presidio and the Intercomp.
Yes.
The Intercomp is what is.
Is Anacomp is who I would like to go
That's your
with.
recommendation.
Yes, that's my
for
recommendation.
approval.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? No?
Thank you.
Okay. Does that conclude everything? Superintendent report? All right, that concludes the superintendent report portion of our agenda. It moves us to the call to the public. This is the time during which anyone that wants to address the board, this is your opportunity to do so. You will have 3 minutes to provide any public comment that you want to make. I mean, it's not a question and answer session. It's just your opportunity to address the board. Our protocol is we have cards at the rear of the room. You fill out a card, deposit it in the box to the left of Mr. Castillo. I will read the cards. When I call your name, you're welcome to come to the podium. We'll be keeping track of the 3 minutes. Dr. Krebs will be keeping track of timing. When there's 30 seconds left, she'll give you a yellow card indicating that you have 30 seconds left. And when the 3 minutes is up, she will provide the red card. So at this time, I think, is there none there? So we have one card, Roger Deaton.
I'm still sweating from having to park downtown. It's hard to get parking around here. You always got to jog to get to this meeting. Well, good evening. My name's Roger Deaton, and I'm a Livingston County Commissioner. I represent Genoa Township, Brighton Township, Osceola Townships. I reside at 699 Sunrise Park. That's in Genoa Township. I'm also running for re-election, so vote for Deaton's on November 5th. Our meeting was moved to Tuesday for the commissioners, so I don't get an opportunity too often to come to the townships or the school boards because I'm always in a county commissioner meeting. So if you're really bored, come to ours tomorrow. Okay. I have two things I wanted to discuss. The first one is I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the entire board for their support of Navy Junior ROTC. I collaborated with John Conley, Dr. Darga, Dr. Outlaw, and so many at the Brighton School with the staff for almost 2 years to get this important program approved. In my professional career in the military, private industry, government, and the American Legion, I've been a strong advocate for leadership training and for leadership programs. So it was kind of awesome to see the two young ladies come up here and talk about all the different leadership programs they're in and how Brighton High School is really focusing on that. So just recently, a program I worked on with Cleary University, Livingston County Administration, Livingston County Community or Human Resources has established a leadership pilot program in Livingston County for our county employees. These classes started last week and will continue for 6 weeks. And they're going to be housed at Cleary University, and the training will center around all facets of government and how to be a better leader within the county and beyond. At the conclusion of the program, the county will be extending the training to other municipalities throughout the county. The American Legion, where I serve as district commander for the 6th District. The 6th District is, I oversee 27 posts in 3 counties, Genesee, Livingston, and Ingham County. I oversee a lot of different programs, but personally, I like to promote Boys State and Girls State. And these are the premier leadership programs for young men and women in our country. The target audience for this program are your juniors in high school, and this program's been around since 1933. The duration for this is 1 week, and the girls will go to Michigan State University for the class, and the boys go to Grand Valley State University. This is fully funded by the American Legion and its supporters, and the students will develop the 51st state, will learn more about civics and how government works than any other time in their life, and it's in 1 week. Many leadership scholarships are set aside for these programs and don't get applied for. So parents who are listening, please look into leadership scholarships, not just your sports scholarships. If you decide to go to a military academy, and for a lot of the colleges, they give you extra points for getting into the academy and for going to some of certain universities. And this will be a week that'll change their lives. My son attends Trine University in Indiana, and just recently, for leadership, he received another $6,000 scholarship from the General Hershey Scholarship Fund. And I said, another, and that's because of leadership. So at this time, Mr. President, I would like to ask for your permission to approach the seating area.
I'm sorry, what?
May I approach the seating area here shortly?
Sure.
Can I approach? Okay, and the reason is in the military, we have a tradition, and when one does exceptional service, we present them with a challenge coin. And we typically say, Bravo Zulu. And so that means job well done. I'm a Navy veteran. For your hard work on the board and for proving Navy Junior RTC, I say Bravo Zulu to you all. And from time to time, I will reach out to different organizations in our awesome county to purchase challenge coins because I'm often in these situations. And the board at Connect 5, it's a local veterans charity, wanted to donate these specific coins to the board. So I want to say thank you to Connect 5, to Paul and Dale. And it's a Navy emblem with the Navy creed on it with a little stand. So I brought 8, one for Dr. Outlaw and for the members. And I'll give them to the president for you to distribute. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Absolutely.
And then I'll go on to my second item. And this is the Brighton versus Howell school board rivalry. So I hope this goes down in history as me as being the facilitator, not the instigator. But currently over at Howell right now, Mr. Jason Bedford and Miss Courtney Tarara, the Howell school board president, are speaking about this very topic. And it's going to be the first annual Brighton versus Howell school board rivalry due to the game coming up this Friday. So, Mr. President, if I may, I can go into the details, or I could yield my comment time for you to go into the details if you have any.
Feel free to, this was your brainchild. So
All right.
I was going to talk about it a little bit later, but I don't want to steal your thunder.
Yep,
So,
I'll keep it short then. Brighton and Howell football game. The loser, the school board that loses must do community service at the winning school and wear the other school's jersey while performing the public service. So I will, of course, be wearing a jersey from both of these great schools as my commissioner district covers them both. And it's a win-win situation for me. So just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
All right. That concludes the call to the public and moves us to the for action portion of our agenda. Item A, regular meeting minutes of September 9, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed, support by Mr. Conley. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 5-0. Moves us to item B, human resources report. Mr. Anastasov.
All right. Good evening. We only have one individual on the human resources report today, and I did give you a new report. It wasn't any additional staff added. It was just the date was incorrect on the other one, so I corrected the date. To explain Renee Wollman quickly, she is a BESPA employee. She's a sign language interpreter. So tonight we are recommending a layoff. This is due to the fact that we do not have a current student need for a sign language interpreter. So I do want to thank Renee for the past 2 years. She actually served as a ASL long-term sub in our high school. And she went as long as she could until we no longer could get permits to continue her in that position, and the teacher did come back for that. So we are really appreciative for that. During that time, she did not lose access to any students or anything during that time where she served in a different capacity. So she was made aware of the layoff. She was offered another position within BESPA, but it was not of equivalent pay. So since she did decline that, we are moving forward with the layoff, which does allow her, according to the BESPA contract, to be recalled over a period of 2 years if there was a need that came back up.
Okay. Thank you for that. Do we have a motion to approve the Human Resources Report as originally presented in the packet, but as revised with the effective date of 10/14/2024?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Marks, support by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? And I would also like to thank Ms. Bowman for her service to the district. Very much appreciate it. All right, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 5-0. Moves us to item C, the Truant Policy Summer Package. Mr. Anastasov, Ms. Reed, who would like to?
Yeah, I can kind of kick it off. So as I said at the last meeting, this 2024 Truant Summer Package is quite extensive. As we see, like I said, every 4 to 5 years, they're going to go through a full revetting process. So that's where a lot of these changes have come from. So we decided within the committee to group these policies to make it not even more attainable for us to achieve this process, but also more accessible to you when reviewing. So we decided to start with what we kind of just are coining category 0, which is basically grouped all the policies together that have very, very minor changes, either language changes, citation changes, changes that do not affect the content and as a whole. So I went through those. I made sure any previous Brighton change was put in place. I also looked at any 2022 options that we chose at that time to make sure those were maintained. So again, there's no changes other than those minor language changes with it. So in the list, it does show 39 different categories, but some of them have multiple policies. So it is about 82 policies in total, grouped in kind of 39 different areas. We still have 61 to go to look at. So we will be bringing probably somewhere around 2 to 3 more groups of policies forward over the next few months.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the Truant Summer Package policy changes as presented in the packet?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion?
I'd like to just thank Mr. Anastasov for the painstaking work in going through each one of these. Truant certainly makes it a little bit easier for us than Neola did, but they still, when they issue a huge policy packet like this, they're sending us their recommendation, and it doesn't take into consideration anything that we may have altered as a board in between. So it was a lot of work on Mr. Anastasov's part to go back through and make sure that we were accounting for anything that the board had approved previously, so that as we go forward with the new recommendations, we're making our own independent choice on whether we want to continue with our previous language that we had adopted, or move back towards Truant's original language. So I think what you've got in front of you here is really only updates that will adjust the few things that Truant wanted. That's why it's the 0. We have much more extensive changes in the other groups that will come here. I did have one question for you. A couple of these were delete policy and then remove the R from the current policy. I just want to make sure that it's clear. In those situations, we had already adopted the relevant policy language, and what we're essentially doing is retitling the existing board policy.
That's correct. Yeah, because when we did put these policies in place, they did not become fully effective until that July 1st. So after that July 1st part, it was expected to remove the R, but still takes board action to be able to do so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? And yes, thank you, Mr. Anastasov, for all your hard work and putting this together in an organized fashion for us. It's very much appreciated. All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 4-1. All right, that moves us to the stadium cameras. This, of course, is what Mr. Castile presented earlier. He is recommending that the board approve the quote for those cameras that was provided by the Intercomp, which is on pages, let's see, 14, page 14 of the packet. So do we have a motion to approve the purchase of the Intercomp bid as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? Mr. Conley?
So I can answer that. This is a recommendation from our law enforcement folks. They're constantly looking for gaps. And what they've been doing in each building is looking at places on our campuses where we do not have camera coverage. And they found quite a few spots at the stadium. And this is a recommendation from our law enforcement community. Welcome.
All right. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 5-0. All right, that moves us to item E, parcel transfer. Dr. Outlaw, do you want to briefly address the parcel transfer issue?
Sure. So we talked about this at our last meeting for future action. We have a resident in this community that owns side-by-side lots. One lot is in the Howell School District, one lot is in the Brighton area schools. And he wishes to build a home, and it would straddle both lots. So we have communicated about this, and we'd like to help this resident out. If you look at the map that is in here, it is a little parcel that's in a sea of Howell properties. And his wishes was to stay in the Brighton area schools, but this is going to be the only option. It's either us helping him or he's out of luck. So with that, we have explored it. It is a very small impact on our district in any way. From the administrative side, we'd like to be able to help out this resident so that he can proceed with his plans.
Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the parcel transfer?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? Ms. Conley?
So we're voting where he will end up in Howell schools. Oh, the calendar schedule? So I did give some update information. We need to talk about that as a board. So.
Just wanted to ask a clarifying question. Since there isn't a house on this property currently, confirmed there are no existing Brighton students that are impacted by this parcel change.
Correct.
All right. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 5-0. That moves us to item F, the back window lintels change order. Who would like to talk about that?
Mr. Jones, guys, you want to come up here if you don't mind? And Scott, do you want to come up too? Okay, does that mean no? So start us off, Dave.
I will start you off. So what we are asking for is, it has been brought to our attention as part of the bond committee for the back window project that's going on here, that there is a significant change order that needs to be approved. Right now, as of this afternoon, I believe, the amount is now $235,000. And that is to either repair or replace the lintels that, based upon, once we started getting into the windows as to that need repair.
Just for the audience, can you explain what a lintel is, just so everybody knows what we're talking about?
Have Jason do it better than I would. Thank you.
A lintel is a steel beam that goes across that supports the brick or masonry above the lintel. And right now that lintel is rotten. So
We've
came up with some different options to replace it.
we've earmarked about 26 openings. When this was brought to our attention by Corrigan Construction, we came out to the field immediately, kind of assessed things, realized we had to get a testing agency out here, and that firm kind of earmarked 26 openings that are in need of potential repairs. We don't know the full scope of the work yet because not all the windows obviously have been removed. And it's not an easy remove and replace. That's kind of the general run through. I can answer any of your questions.
Just to start off, just to clarify for everybody that you have to take the windows out in order to fully assess the condition of the lintel of each one of these 26. Is that correct?
Yes and no. I mean, the window remove and replacement is part of the general scope through the federally funded dollars. So I don't know if the windows have to be fully removed when that happens, but they're definitely going to be at least protected. But then they'll be removed once the lintel is.
But you don't know the full scope of what needs to be done until you get deeper into the window project. Is that correct?
Correct. Right now, we are doing a test demo of the first two windows at the main entrance, the first floor and second floor, to see what we're likely going to have to tackle at the other 24 locations, which would help with pricing. But there's a lot of dominoes that need to fall, and there's also a timeline with the federal funds needing to be used at a certain time.
Yeah, I mean, and just to clarify, so the replacement of the windows themselves were approved last summer, a while ago, that we're taking advantage of the grant funding from the federal government, which has to be spent by December.
On the normal schedule, it has to be spent by December 31st. If we cannot spend it by December 31st, we have to request an extension from the state. So we'd have to ask for approval to extend that period. At least we would have a basis to do that.
Right. And so in the course then of preparing for and conducting the replacement of the windows is when this lintel issue was discovered, as I understand it. And it's not necessarily all the windows in back. It's with certain window alignments that are the subject to these compromised lintels. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, we're restricted to the historical building, really, both the north and south side. So we range between 7'4" openings, 11-foot openings, and 15-foot openings that we're dealing with. So they're large openings, and it was not a condition that we could have seen when we were doing the design work. All those lintels are covered by trim plates that unfortunately were sealed from end to end and along the perimeter, which trapped all the water in there over the years.
So the board knows all the windows have been replaced that can be replaced until this lintel thing gets resolved. Okay. As far as they can go right now.
And so the amount that is the estimate that has been provided by the masonry subcontractor is 210,000? Is that the?
We're up to 235 right now, as David said. We're wondering if the best course of action is that there's some sort of leeway between 225 and 250 that the bond committee could react to, and we can continue to give you updates on. But our backs are kind of against the wall at this point.
Right. I mean, obviously, this scope is beyond the authority of any committee, which is why it's back to the board to have the approval. And obviously, because of the degree of uncertainty regarding each of these windows, and some may be worse, some may be not as bad, I think it's probably prudent to build in some sort of a contingency beyond the quote that was provided, so that we could have a approval up to a certain amount, and then as windows are being removed and there's further investigation, then we can assess it on a kind of a window by window basis to determine the scope of what needs to be done. But at least we'd have board approval for that amount that would cover potentially the full scope of the entire project. So is your recommendation that it be an amount not to exceed 250 for all of the windows?
It is, yeah. Myself and Dave and Ryan with Corrigan and Scott, we've all discussed that, and I think that would be the best course of action at this point.
Okay. And as I understand it, the funding for this will, 65% of the funding for this additional change order will come from the federal grant, and 35% will come from general fund dollars?
But there is a cap. So we have a budget for the federal dollars. And if we exceed that budget, then what we must do, what we can do is we can use bond dollars. And we're getting close to using up our bond dollars. And then after the bond dollars, then we go to general fund. So my guess, and this is a total guess at this point in time, it's going to be a portion of all three.
Can I just ask a question on the timing because of the,
Do we
Yeah.
have a motion? Yeah.
oh,
We don't have a motion. We
We
wanted
don't.
to get the information. So, all right. So
Yeah.
do we have a motion to approve the change order in an amount not to exceed $250,000 as recommended by administration? Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Okay. And further discussion?
I just had a question on timing because you don't know, right? As you're going in window to window, it could be different depending on what does or does not need to be repaired. So what is the timeline, individual window and then a second individual window? And how does that tie into how we can spend the money? I mean, because we're not ordering materials ahead, or are we ordering materials ahead? Like, how can we utilize those grant dollars before the end of the year? I'm not sure what this takes from a timing standpoint.
So one of the things, that's a little bit unknown. So one of the things we're doing, Corgan's going to do, is the two windows that we've already got taken out, we're kind of going to do those as like a T&M basis, time material. So that will give us, we will be there watching how long it takes them to do one window. And then that'll give us a better understanding of the cost for what it takes to do that one window. And then we could, from that point, we could come up with a schedule on how long each window would take.
Okay.
And to get back to your question, as long as the work is done by December 31st, we have the next quarter in order to request the funds.
Request the reimbursement?
Pay
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
And from a material lead time, I mean, the windows are already ordered, the new windows are already here, right? So it's a matter of fabricating a new lintel for any individual windows, and then the masonry material that we'd have anyway, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So one of the things you said, Jason, I think you said about the trim, covering it, sealing it, is that something that will not happen this time? So the water's not trapped in there?
Correct, yeah. It'll be flashed out and detailed as it should have been in the past. So if water gets between the brick and the block, it can get out.
Thank you.
Mr. Conley? You had turned your mic on, John.
Yeah, thank you. And how old are these openings? Are these 100 years old now, or what are they?
No, I was going through records. I think the windows have been replaced in 1995, 97-ish.
But those the lintels.
Oh, the lintels, yes. Yeah, the lintels are when the building was constructed.
100 years old.
1920s,
Yeah, so-
yeah. 1928, yeah.
Yeah, so, and you found that the deterioration of the metal in the I-beam is,
The I-beam looks to be okay. It's the shelf plate that sticks out that's holding the brick veneer. So our hope is that none of the I-beams are compromised. We haven't
Your
seen-
hope, though.
Yes, we have not seen any evidence of that yet.
as we know, they're buried in there,
Yes,
and then they have an extension plate welded to them,
they
That's what
are
they did.
riveted.
riveted.
Yeah,
So we have to redo the extension plate in the block in that neighborhood.
so the idea is to shore everything up, cut the plate,
Yeah.
then cut the rivets, then slide the new shelf plate in, and then weld the connection to the
see it.
historic beam.
And then repair the masonry.
So these windows that we have are already made to size.
Yeah, and I mean, they're plus or minus, the inch shimming that they can do on site, yes.
So you can't overlap that. There's not enough there to overlap it and put the window and then make the You have to do this major surgery on each one of these window openings to,
Unfortunately, yes, just because if the lintel is not replaced, the brick will start to fall.
okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Any further questions?
I had one. This, I mean, for this amount of expense, normally we would be running a request for proposals. We would be bidding this out. I know that we have time pressures, and that's one of the reasons that it was not recommended that we do that. Are there other advantages to the district in not going through a bid process before we spend $250,000? Or is that the only one, is the timing on the federal grant?
That's,
Maybe part of that is we don't know exactly what the full scope is going to entail until we get into doing a discovery on a couple of the windows. You'd probably get a range of prices all over the place.
And it would probably be difficult to bid, to actually write the bid so that we got comparable information from multiple parties.
it would be presented to the board the same way we're kind of presenting it now, because there's so many unknowns.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or discussion?
100-year-old building.
Okay. Yep, 100-year-old building. All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? That passes 5-0. Okay, that concludes the for action portion of our agenda. Moves us to for future action. Item A, schools of choice, second semester. Dr. Outlaw.
So next month, we would like to bring a school of choice resolution to the board that would mirror what we did last year. We have space in all of our grades where we could fit students. Not at every school, but we have some space in each one of our buildings. We're fairly full at our elementary level, but we would like to do that all the way through 11th grade. And we wondered if you had any questions for us.
Dr. What is our percentage of school of choice students versus in-district residents?
We're approximately 17% for school of choice, non-resident.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right. Moves us to item B, summer tax resolution. Mr.
Yes.
Jones?
So as we do every fall, we will be asking the board to pass a resolution to give us authority to request the taxing bodies to collect our operating millage in the summer as opposed to the winter. This helps greatly with our cash flow as the state, when the state pays out your state aid payment, we get 11 every year. So the month of September, we don't get any state aid payment from the state. So it is very, very helpful to have the taxes collected in the summer to help our cash flow instead of being collected in the winter.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right. Then moves us to item C in the agenda, which is the technology purchases, which Mr. Castile addressed earlier in the meeting. And obviously, if there's any questions anybody has in advance of that being moved for action at the next meeting, reach out to Mr. Castile, and I'm sure he'll be happy to answer any questions. All right, that concludes the for future action portion of our agenda. Moves us to board committee chair reports, community recognition.
So the academic committee met, and probably the biggest thing is the Atlas rollout. I think we're going to have Dr. Mosier in a future meeting present this. Do you want to say a little bit about it? Thanks.
So Atlas or Curriculum Warehouse is one of our strategic plan goals. And it's really, that's what it is. It's a curriculum warehouse where as groups are going through a curriculum cycle, we are loading them so they are public. Parents can go to our site, go to Atlas, and you can see ones that are starting to get updated, loaded on there. So like you'll see algebra on there, Math 5 is on there, U.S. history. So some of the groups of teachers who've started coming in to do that work We're slowly starting to upload them and basically see a scope and sequence, what's taught over a full year or semester course, standards that are taught, essential questions and such. So
Thank you. And I'd just like to add the positive, one of the really positive things are the reviewing the curriculum, going over the curriculum and looking at the progression and the trajectory across it. So thank you.
Any other, Mr. Conley?
I think we all got similar emails from some parents regarding some 10th grade curriculum items, but I understand that administration is dealing with these items and handling it. And if there's anything that the board needs to do, you'll bring it back to us. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
From a policy committee standpoint, as you heard from Mr. Anastasov, we've got a lot of work to do. So we'll try and make sure that we get together before the next meeting. So you've got another set of policies on your for future action list by the time we get together in November. Outside of that, I just wanted to second the thanks that was given at the beginning of the meeting for all of the students, parents, and staff and community members that all came together to make the homecoming parade and homecoming dance possible. It is always a fabulous event, and one of my favorite, absolutely most favorite things about living here in Brighton is just seeing everyone in the community out to support our kids and to see our kids run that event. It's something that is truly unique and special about Brighton. Thanks to everybody that makes that possible.
So the bond committee met, obviously the focus of our meeting, our last committee meeting dealt with the lintels issue, which has obviously been discussed at length. We will coordinate schedules on an as-needed basis as this work progresses to get together with the administrative team to address what is being uncovered. And obviously we will provide further update at the next board meeting regarding the progress and what is being discovered as part of that work. Mr. Conley?
Yeah, why don't you do a little video of what's going on with that? You can present a video. It's pretty hard to understand what they have to deal with there. And I think that would be.
There is, yeah, and we do have the report from SME. They were the consultant that was hired to assess the structural integrity or lack thereof. It's a really good report. So we can make that available as well. Probably, actually, it might be, we can make that available for anyone that wants to look at it. But
just an idea.
Yeah,
and it gives,
yeah, absolutely. And obviously their photographs are just, external because they hadn't gone into, right? So no, that's a good idea. Thank you for that. So that's what we will be doing for the bond meeting or meetings before the next board meeting. And then the other thing I wanted to add was, as a follow-up to Mr. Deaton's presentation, I also want to thank him with the American Legion. He part of the initiative that he pushed forward as well was to move to have the district begin recognizing a Teacher of the Year for the community. That was happened for the first time this year. I think it may have happened in years past, but for whatever reason, the district got away from it, and he was really behind the scenes pushing to reinstitute that program, recognizing the Teacher of the Year for Brighton, police officer, firefighter of the year as well, to recognize people that are doing such an outstanding job for our community, for our children, and I want to recognize him and thank him for moving that forward and bringing and focusing on the very positive things for our district and for our community. And then, as he mentioned, he contacted me about this idea of a friendly rivalry and having the board, the respective boards of Howell School Board and Brighton School Board make a friendly wager on the outcome of the big game on Friday. And so I've reached out to all of you, and the consensus, I'm happy to report that the consensus here is that we're game. We're willing to stand behind our Bulldogs, and we'll see what happens on Friday. Although it sounds like Mr. Conley is a little averse to wearing a Howell jersey in whatever is being done.
Hold it. That was not part of your.
Well, that was a little bit of a surprise. It was a little twist. I wasn't told that
Listen, I have no problem with those hay balers up there, and I'll tell you, they really are tough guys, so be ready. So the point though would be, though, wearing a Howell jersey,
Howell sweatshirts, let me know how many you need.
I'm just not so sure. I just don't know, Roger. I think that's kind of, I'm good with it. I mean, except for that part.
Well, we at least have a consensus on the concept. So
Let's define the outline.
Yeah. So I'll touch base with Ms. Tarara, the president of the Howell School Board, and we'll figure out the details, and we'll come up with something that we can all agree to. So I'm confident of that.
Roger.
No, it was a great idea. Thank you, Mr. Deaton. It's I always love to get the school spirit and the friendly rivalry among the two communities. So looking forward to it. That'll be great. All right, that concludes all items on our agenda this evening. Our next board meeting is Monday, November 11th, 2024 at 7 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.